1. What are protists? Protists are a diverse group of eukaryotic organisms, primarily aquatic, that do not fit into the categories of plants, animals, or fungi. 2. What does the name protist mean? The name protist comes from the Greek word meaning the very first, highlighting that protists were among the first eukaryotes to evolve. 3. How are protists classified? Protists are classified based on their diverse shapes, reproduction methods, nutrition, and lifestyles, but they are broadly grouped into protozoa, algae, slime molds, and water molds. 4. Why are protists called polyphyletic? Protists are polyphyletic because they do not share a common evolutionary ancestor and may have evolved independently from different ancestral sources. 5. What types of cells do protists have? Protists have eukaryotic cells with nuclei and membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria and plastids. 6. What are the different modes of nutrition in protists? Protists can be autotrophic, e.g., algae, heterotrophic, e.g., protozoa, or absorptive, e.g., water molds. 7. Where do protists live? Protists are primarily aquatic and live in oceans, freshwater, moist soil, leaf litter, and decomposing organic matter. Some are extremophiles, living in snow, hot springs, or acidic ponds. 8. What are the different types of reproduction in protists? Protists reproduce both asexually and sexually, but they usually lack multicellular sex organs and do not form embryos. 9. How do protists move? Protists move using pseudopodia, e.g., amoeba, cilia, e.g., paramecium, or flagella, e.g., trypanosoma. Parasitic protists may lack specific locomotion structures. 10. What are protozoa? Protozoa are animal-like, unicellular protists that move and ingest food particles. They are found in freshwater, marine, or terrestrial environments. 11. Name a parasitic protozoan. Plasmodium, which causes malaria, is a parasitic protozoan. 12. What are vacuoles, and what are their functions in protozoa? Vacuoles in protozoa perform digestion, food vacuoles, water regulation, contractile vacuoles, and storage vacuoles. 13. What are pseudopodia? Pseudopodia are temporary extensions of the cell used for movement and feeding, as seen in amoeba. 14. What are zooflagellates? Zooflagellates are protozoa that move using flagella, such as Giardia intestinalis. 15. What are choanoflagellates? Choanoflagellates are sessile, flagellated protozoa with a flagellum surrounded by a collar, resembling sponge cells. 16. What are ciliates? Ciliates are protozoa covered in cilia, hair-like structures used for movement, such as paramecium and stenta. 17. What are foraminifera? Foraminifera are marine protozoa with calcium-based shells. 18. What are actinopods? Actinopods are protozoa with silica-based shells. 19. What are apicomplexans? Apicomplexans are parasitic protozoa known for complex life cycles and specialized structures for host invasion, such as Plasmodium. 20. What are algae? Algae are plant-like protists that perform photosynthesis and contribute 50 to 60% of the planet's oxygen production. 21. What are choanocytes? Choanocytes are structures in some filamentous algae where multiple nuclei exist within a shared cytoplasm. 22. How are algae different from plants? Algae have unicellular sex organs, lack vascular tissues, and do not form embryos like plants. 23. What is a thallus? A thallus is a leaf-like body structure found in multicellular algae, such as seaweeds. 24. What are euglenoids? Euglenoids are freshwater protists, some of which have chloroplasts for photosynthesis, like euglena. 25. What are dinoflagellates? Dinoflagellates are protists with two flagellar and cellulose plates, some of which exhibit bioluminescence. 26. What are diatoms? Diatoms are unicellular algae with silica cell walls, often compared to a box with two halves. 27. What is bioluminescence in dinoflagellates? Bioluminescence is the production of light by some dinoflagellates when disturbed, creating blue-green light. 28. What are brown algae? Brown algae are marine, multicellular protists, some of which grow up to 75 meters, like kelps. 29. What are red algae? Red algae are multicellular protists found in warm seawater, anchored to surfaces by holdfasts. 30. What causes leishmaniasis? Leishmaniasis is caused by parasitic protozoa called leishmania, transmitted through sandfly bites. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe.